Hello and good evening. My name is Lisa Klaslow. I am with the Lupus Society, and we're very excited to present tonight Building Resilience in the Lupus Community. I know some people are probably just getting home from work and getting logged on. So I'm going to make a few announcements before we get started. All right, so here is tonight's presentation, Building Resilience in the Lupus Community, presented by Reverend Shirley Bremel, PhD. Before we get started, I did want to talk about today's presentation. This event is an educational and informative purpose only and serves to benefit our mission. The Lupus Society of Illinois does not provide medical advice or recommendations. This information should not substitute or replace medical expert. Before making changes to your medical care, consult a qualified healthcare professional familiar with your medical condition and health status. As you all know, it's Lupus Awareness Month, and we at LSI have many things planned. So here's some of our upcoming events. As you know, tonight is our first Facebook Live event, so we're really excited to have you guys with us. So here are the upcoming events. We are doing on May 23rd, a Q&A with the Rush Lupus Clinic. This is with Dr. Cherney, Dr. Jolly, and Dr. Nika. So if you register, you're able to then send some questions over to us in advance that we will provide the doctors, and then we'll go live with them on May 23rd to answer all your questions about lupus and things going on for lupus awareness. Then on May 30th, I will be doing another Facebook Live event, Resources with the Lupus Community, with Mari Gonzalez. She is our LSI Lupus Navigator, and she has a wealth of knowledge about lupus because she is a lupus warrior and different benefits and things that you can get. She can help you find a doctor. So if you call LSI, we will probably send you over to Mari, but she's going to come live with me, kind of share her background and all the great things that we have at LSI. Then in June 15th, we're going to have our annual Spanish language event. This will take place in Pilsen. That's June 15th. This is in person, so we do need you to register to get that information. It's from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be some snacks and beverages provided, but it's completely in Spanish. So if you know anyone with lupus or a family member or anyone with lupus that speaks Spanish, please let them know about this event. As you are probably aware, LSI's 50th anniversary is this year. So LSI started in 1973. So we're very excited that after 50 years, we're still around, still going strong with our mission of providing lupus awareness, education, and resources to all those living with lupus. So if you have any old memories, pictures, comments, we'd love to hear them. So hop on our website and let us know. Please share. Sorry, next slide. So this slide's all about donations, and obviously we're a non-for-profit, so we really do appreciate all your donations over the years, and those donations help events like tonight go on. So thank you so much for all your continued support, and we hope that you enjoy these events like tonight that we're able to provide to you. Our annual walks are coming up. So if you are interested in joining a walk committee, we do have one for the Western Suburbs Walk and the Chicago Walk. So if you are interested, please contact me. Here's my contact information, or you can call the office. It's 312-542-0002 and join one of the communities. They are great. They help us provide and get a lot of insight. So if you've been to a walk and you have a great idea, give me a call and we will try to make it happen. We want to make those walks individually fun for everyone. So join a committee. Oops, I'm sorry, went too fast. So the lupus walks are back. So like I said, we do have 2 walks coming up. The Western Suburbs Walk will take place on August 12th. That is in Naperville at the Naperville River Walk. And then we have our Chicago Walk and Fun Run Sunday, September 30th. That's at the Rower Lagoon in Lincoln Park. Registration is open. Teams are signing up. So we do hope that you will register. Go to lupuswalkil.org, or you can find a link at just lupusil.org. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you set up a team, or if you have ideas or need help with anything, let us know. If you are ever interested in running a Chicago Marathon, LSI has a team, the Lupus Charity Runners. If you would like more information on how to become a Lupus Charity Runner or to get involved with the Chicago Marathon, please contact Mary at lupusil.org or call 312-542-0002. And then we are always looking for volunteers or internship opportunities. So if you or anyone you know is interested in volunteering at a walk, at events, we are always looking for volunteers. So please, again, contact me at lisa@lupusil.org or call me at my extension, which is 0006. All right. Well, thank you. We're going to get started here. I'm going to bring our presenter in. All right. So before we get started, I did want to encourage everyone as the presentation goes on to comment or ask questions in the chat, and we will get to them either during the presentation, and we will definitely leave some time at the end for Q&A as well. So a little bit about Reverend Shirley Bremmel. She is, after dealing with numerous health challenges, Reverend Bremmel realized that life is all about dealing with changes and challenges, and therefore devotes her life to assisting others who deal with life adversities. Her focus is to encourage one another and build one another up. Reverend Bremmel is blessed to have the support of Charles, her spouse of 54 years, 4 children, and 8 grandchildren. Strong faith and supportive family and friends have brought her through the tough times. Reverend Bremmel received her bachelor's degree in psychology at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, master's degree in pastoral counseling from Loyola University in Chicago, Illinois, and a PhD in organizing development at Benedictine University in Lisle, Illinois. She holds certificates in addressing the spiritual dimension of suffering, healing, and resistance from Chicago Center of Family Health, Ministry of the Sick, Dying, and Grieving, Loyola University, Chicago, Illinois, and the Family Journey with Cancer, Navigating the Challenges. Ordained in local elder Reverend Bremmel, that's a tongue twister for me, served at DuPage AME Church on the pastoral support team. She's a founder and sculptural inspirational phrases in 2018 to develop inspirational material to help persons during their time of need. She produces a compact disc of daily inspirational scripture entitled Restore Your Soul. She is the author of just published 2023 Resilience in Intersection of Crisis and Opportunity. Reverend Bremmel truly believes that life is all about balance and therefore advocates managing the changes in your life. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Bremmel to talk a little bit about her journey and tell us a little bit about her book as well. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Lisa. You had quite a few tongue tires there, right? Well, I thank you for having me as your first Facebook Live this month. This is really exciting just to think that the Lupus Society has been around for 50 years. Actually shows resilience. Any organization, especially nonprofit, that can hang around that long must have dealt with challenges, and therefore you guys are resilient. And the great thing about that is I have had lupus for about 21 years, and I probably came to Lupus Society to get some support during that time, because, you know, with lupus or with dealing with anything that you don't know anything about, you kind of search around to see where you can find help and information. So I'm glad you were there when I needed you. And so tonight, this evening, we're going to talk about resilience. And that is an interesting topic. Well, we know that resilience is when you're able to overcome difficulties and bounce back or recover. I'll say recover, or because you don't always bounce back. And having lupus is quite it is quite a journey. I know for me, as you've suggested, I talk about some of the struggles. Um, it 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 is can be and goes on to be a struggle for some, but it's curious because not everyone that has lupus has the same amount of struggling. I remember once my rheumatologist asked me to write a pamphlet with him, and I wrote, and he said, "Oh, I think this might be a little too scary," because the things and struggles and issues that I dealt with, a lot of people haven't had. Some people are just on medication. But for me, when I had my first big flare, that that knocked me out for quite some time. And so maybe I'll mention a little bit of it, because when we're talking about resilience, resilience is dealing with change. It's a process. And I'm sure that we've all had occasions where we've dealt with the challenge and we it's maybe we recovered quickly or not. And I'm sure that we are all, to some degree, are resilient in something. But with lupus, it can be a trip. I remember journaling that I thought that having my first flare, when I came home, I felt like I had a I had a nightmare, and the nightmare came home with me. That was the lupus, because it just, for me, it just was dealing with change, and it was the fast pace of change. It's just like stuff just kept happening. And what was weird was, you try to do all of the things that you can do to keep yourself well. And pre lupus, I jogged, I was vegan, I did all of the things that I figured would keep me well. And so when I was tired and I had swelling in my feet and hands, I was like, okay, what is this? And so it would be, I don't know how many months, maybe 5 months or so, which I'm told is quick, because sometimes it takes a long time for people to get diagnosed. But my internist discovered that I had lupus. And they talked about a flare. Okay. So I was diagnosed with lupus maybe in April, and I had dreams, and I said, okay, well, if this is it, then, I'm looking it up. I'm trying to figure out what is this, because no one in my family had lupus. I don't know that they had anything in the arthritis family, but possibly. But I was trying to make sense out of something that didn't make sense, because I thought I had done such a good job of taking care of myself, jogging and eating right and all of those things. But sometimes things happen that you don't have any control over. And the issue is, how are you going to deal with it? And this is probably what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, although we have many things that come into our life um, other than lupus. I mean, there's so many unplanned change, which is kind of what I started looking at it. So many things that happen in our lives, but not too many of them are aimed at taking you out. Lupus has no cure. So now I got something that doesn't have a cure, and I got to learn how to live with it. And so, as we are talking about lupus and actually talking about building resilience in the lupus community, I just had an aha moment yesterday when I was thinking about resilience in the community. Well, who is the community? The community is our family, caregivers, doctors, friends. And for me, I had to realize that when I got lupus, it was almost like everybody, everybody that was connected to me was impacted by the lupus. I mean, I would experience in that 6 weeks, I would be coded blue. I mean, I went through so many things. And I remember when I came home, my mother didn't even want to come back out here because she was so traumatized by what I went through. And my husband would watch over me when I was sleeping. I mean, and my kids, I think I had the first granddaughter, and they weren't sure if this was a contagious thing. So there is so many questions out there that you at the Lupus Society are so great in answering and educating, because that is the key, which is educating people about something that they're not familiar with, so that people won't think that you are contagious, that that they can catch it. And so it was just realizing, as I look back, every step I made, and then you don't look like you have lupus. You don't look like you're sick. And that would be really weird, because I could be in a group with my husband and other people, and I could step away to the restroom or something, and then when I would come back, they were kind of treating me a little different, and I was like wondering, well, what happened? Well, somehow while I was out, someone had said, well, she has lupus, and it was like a whole different attitude, oh, she has lupus. And so you're dealing with all of these different things that are getting you on all kinds of levels. You're dealing with the stigmatism of a disease. You're dealing with a disease that has no cure. You're dealing with a whole number of things. So it's a lot. And so in order to manage that, which is something that I had to learn how to do, which was, how do I manage this whole thing that is now impacting my life? Because I had dreams and plans. I had some plans for my life. I had my daughter. It's a gap between my daughter and my son. So I thought, well, now she's in high school. Well, maybe I'll go back to school. And who would have thought that when I started my master's in the pastoral program, that's when I got the lupus. And my first major flare was in that semester. So I made it. I made it to December, and wow, I had a huge flare. Well, in case you don't know what a flare is when you have disease activity. And people kept saying, well, we'll wait until you have a flare. I didn't have an idea what a flare was. But when your disease activity level gets really high, that's when your body starts attacking itself. And for me, it attacked the major organs. So it attacked my heart, my lungs, and my kidney. And I'm still in the feeling of what have I got? So I kind of laid out my stages, and this is what, if someone would read my book, they would see how I kind of laid out the stages that you go through, because you are learning how to look at it and see how you're perceiving it. Some people can can think things, or oh, I just got a little headache, and then other people can say, oh, I got a huge headache, so let me take a lot of medicine or something. So it's important to see how you look at it, so that you know how to deal with it. And so I was in that first stage. What have I got? Well, I'm traumatized. I got lupus. I got kids. I just had my first granddaughter. Am I going to live to see her grow up? I mean, it was like making sense out of this. Well, I ate right. I did. How did I do? How did I get this? And with other people who have lupus, I've talked to them, and they would say, well, my mother-in-law thought I was faking because I was tired, and and I looked all right. I mean, you know, it's it's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. And as we are looking at change and how you manage change, for me, lupus, there there was a fast pace of change. First, I'm in the hospital. Then I got, I had my um, a clot in my kidney, knocked that out, and then I have something happened with my heart, and then I had, I mean, it was like, how do I come home with all of this stuff? And I came home. I'm on dialysis, and so I have these um, tags, disability tags. I can barely walk. I had to learn how to walk again. So we're looking at, the new me. I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm looking at, um, how do I plug the me that I am now back into the world, because I was so used to functioning in one way. Well, in getting the master's in pastoral counseling, you need to do an internship. Now I'm facing the world of disabilities because I needed to have an internship experience, and I spoke with the person and told her what I needed, so many credits, and she said, "Fine." And then she said, "Well, I told her, I said, well, I'm going to need flexibility because I'm on dialysis. I was on dialysis for 3 times a week for about 3, 4 hours." And she said, "Oh, no, that's not going to work." And I was like, you know, so the fast pace of change. I mean, and at each of these turns, it just seemed like the first option was no longer available. So I had to figure out plan B. And that is basically what happens when you're experiencing unintended changes. You're trying to figure out, well, now what do I do? And so when I finally got the opportunity to interview with someone, I had to advocate for myself. They said, well, we'd like to have you, but we're not sure how that's going to work since you're not well. And I said, well, just give me a chance. And so we have to learn how to manage ourselves. So these are just some of the things, because it's like, as a minister, there is one of the guys that, yeah, I think it was Paul, where he's learning to live with a thorn in his side. He'd like to. God didn't take his thorn away, and I kind of laugh and I said, "Oh, so there are some of us who aren't going to be healed, who have what I would say a thorn in our side, and we have to learn how to develop Plan B." So, are you with me so far?
Yes, I am with you. I do have a question though. How with your lupus do you handle change?
Well, that's a good question, because probably answers in my book, but how I do that is, it's like it's like my body, my mind, this is my lab. I have to learn how to listen to myself. And since I know that stress and fatigue are the enemies of lupus, then these are some things that I have to avoid. So um, if at the time when my disease was really active, if I had been my kids would say, "Well, Mom, could you babysit?" And I always want to be with my grandchildren, but that meant that I would have to go to bed for several hours um, and rest. So you've heard of that 6 spoons uh, of energy that was developed. I forget the person who developed it, but basically it says you only have a certain amount of energy, and it was allotting him to 6 spoons. So if I've used up 5 spoons of energy, then I only got one left. So managing the change is making sure that I'm rested, and and stress is good in some respects. And it's funny because when I told my doctor that I had been accepted into the PhD program, I kind of did one of those what my kids do. I kind of told him as I was getting ready to leave the office. And I said, "Oh yeah, I've been accepted into the program, but I'm sure it's not going to be any stress." And we kind of laughed. So managing to change, you have to know how you normally are. You have to know what is throwing you off if you're being stressed. I had read in the beginning that massages were good for handling stress. So I booked a massage, and I meditate twice a day, and I go to the arboretum because
Nice. Yeah.
nature, um, nature for me is calming, and water is calming. So I think that it's important that you find out those things that bring you joy or relax you when you realize that you are starting to kind of wander into some stormy waters.
If anyone has any questions, please put them in the comment area and we will get to them as we continue to go.
And I think that I think another one of the things you had asked about was thriving. Well, I think the thriving kind of goes along with that past question that you said. It's like I in addition to living, I guess because I've had I have had a kidney transplant, so I'm not on dialysis anymore. But in order to thrive, I have to watch what I eat, um, mainly because of the salt component, the sodium component. My kidney doctor wants that sodium level at a certain point. So it's like your body is your lab, and you're just listening. I mean, it's like your inner compass, and the inner compass is saying, do you think you want to go out? Okay, well, I think you, or if I feel stressed, then I send myself to my room. I said, go to your room. You might not be pleasant to be around for a while. Go to your room. I say I need 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That's all I need. And I think that most people, or some people, know their body. Some people go for a walk. Um, it's just important to listen to your body, and then you can determine, is this working or not? And that's how you want to work with thriving and continuing to go on. I mean, that because it can be frustrating, you know, when something happens and you're an adult and you're growing, you're dealing with different things. Um, you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do with this? And as I said before, everyone doesn't have the same thing. I got lupus at 50. Well, at 50, I'm at a different state in my life there are people who get lupus when they are in their 30s, and maybe that's a time when they were focused on a career, or there's people who, want to have children, or there are times when whatever it is, everyone with lupus doesn't have the same issues because we're all at a different stage of our lives, which means that we need to customize a personal plan to deal with our lupus. So I could say, well, this is what I do. I go here or I go there, but I don't have children, little children. I have grandchildren, and and they come when they come. So what we're looking at when building resilience, we are realizing that there's needs out there, that not only does the lupus impact me, but it impacts my husband, it impacts my mother, my daughter, everyone. And so building resilience in the lupus community is just trying to help everyone first understand what resilience is, understand the process. You don't start out at resilience. I mean, you go through life modifications, you go to um, transitions, you go through finally, when you get to this turning point where you decide that you can do this, I want to do this, I want to live, I want to create a new norm, because that's what you have to do. Because since the me that I am today, different than than the me when I first moved out here from Philadelphia. I mean, I was having a ball. Now I'm wiser, and my body's saying, no, I don't think we're going to do that today.
I have a question. Were your parents resilient, and how was resilience modeled for you?
Well, I would say my mother had cancer, and she didn't want to talk about it, which reminds me of a lot. There are some people who in my study, when we get to that, my study, I dealt with and interviewed people resilient, and a lot of people didn't want to share their stories. They feared that they would be viewed as not a good friend or not a person to, they just didn't want to share their story. And now my mother, she had cancer, but she didn't tell me she had cancer. She gave me my birthday gift in the summer. She brought plants over and said she just wanted to give them to me. Now, my birthday is in November. So I was a little puzzling because why would she give me all these plants in the summer when she had time? And so she just said, well, I have to have a procedure. Well, back then you could call the doctor. It wasn't a lot of, as a daughter, I could call and they said, well, your mom is not going to have a little procedure. She's going to have both breasts removed. Oh. And so she couldn't speak about it, but when she finally had to communicate, she would call it C, and I have C. And so if that's the way it made her comfortable, then that was fine with me. So, but I would say that she modeled it, even though she modified her communication, but I saw her go through it. And I think her biggest challenge was bras and, how, and all of those things, but she managed in her own way. So I saw that and I said, well, if she can do that, then I certainly can work on doing whatever it is I need to do to get better. And I needed to get better because I felt I needed to do that for my mom because I was the only daughter. I'm the oldest, and I felt it was necessary to show her strength.
Mhm. We do have a question in the comments from Melissa Newton. It says, Dr. Bremmel, do you have any advice on how we can be our best advocate when it comes to health change?
Well, that's a good question. It really is. How to be your best advocate. I, 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 I look back at that experience that I had when I had to say, give me a chance. I just feel that you have to know who to speak to, um, and present your best self. um, and give the reasons why you feel that you can do it. But I think it's a matter of that self-care, um, how we take care of ourselves and how we learn how to speak and see, um, how we see the opportunity that's in front of us. Like if we if we feel that we have, stuff always happens to us and we're not a positive person, then I think sometimes that can be a turnoff. So if we are able to have what I probably say in my book, have a growth mindset, saying, well, yes, I have had some challenges in my life, um, but I have overcome them, rather than me think, well, stuff is always happening to me, and me, having this pitiful thing. So I just feel that if we present ourselves positively,
Mhm.
that shows much better than presenting the negative side. And I feel that that also shows some type of inner strength. It shows some grit.
Thank you. And then how do you prepare yourself for your doctor visits?
Well, I I kind of I keep a running list of questions in my phone, and one day I realized I have these Apple products. I deleted my running things because each time I would go, then he would say, "Well, do this, do that, and that," and then I'd look to make sure that I had done that, and I would add the next thing. But I have, I don't know, about 10 medicines that I take. I take auto immune medicines, and I take a lot of medicine. So I'm constantly, as I said, listening to that, my inner compass. And I laughed one time because when I went to the doctor and I was in the PhD program, I said to doctor, I said, I don't know if this is lupus fog. I said, but I don't feel that I'm clear. And he said, this is not lupus fog. He said, you haven't been in this program before. It's been a while. And so you're all right. And so I think it's good to have conversations with your doctor, so that you can develop that rapport, so that you don't kind of imagine more about something than it really is. So I usually have I think about, okay, well, how did that go, and why did my ankle swell, and I put that down there, and so it's like a running journal of questions, and how did that work? Well, you told me to do this, and like I told him I was going on a trip. My daughter, when I on my last big birthday, we went on a trip, and we were going out of the country. And he said, well, when you with lupus, if you're going to do more walking and a higher level of activity than you usually do, then I need you to take this medicine to combat the inflammation from overworking it. And so it is best in preparing this is just to have that conversation. Well, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to be doing, or this is how things are working. And that's generally what I do.
Okay. And then how important is support?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask me that, because I was looking at one of the studies that I used in my research. Of course, support is key. From my report, that's one of the key steps in resilience is support. But there's a study that's done about lupus and about the quality of life. And I don't know if it's a German study, but it talks about social support being key in patients with the lupus SLE, the systemic lupus. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to increase your quality of life, then to have that social support, have someone that you can talk to and be around that's positive will really, really be key.
All right. Do you want to share a little bit about your book and how you came about it? And
Here it is. Well, it's interesting because I have been looking at once I got the lupus, I'm looking at everyone. I'm looking at all of the people that are in the hospital. I'm looking at even when I was on dialysis, I was sent to this Maywood dialysis center, and I'm thinking, wow, these are my new comrades. And so you're constantly adjusting to change. But just hearing people's stories, different people were handling it different. And my book, I talk about crises and opportunity. And I also feel like having lupus taught me so much. Actually, having lupus taught me how to deal with the pandemic, because that was another unintended change. It was another crisis. And I think that lupus taught me how to deal with crises. And it could be any crisis. It could be any unintended change. And so my book then is about, and I used, as I was saying, I researched about 25 people, and I interviewed 25 people with lupus, and I surveyed 70 people with lupus. So it wasn't just my dealing with it. It was my community, as we're talking about building this resilient community, so that we can see what worked for some and what didn't work. But as I studied and did all of that, we came to see how, when you have a crisis, that kind of knocks out your opportunity, your plan A, and then plan B it becomes available. And so this is what my book is talking about, because it talks about the intersection of crises and opportunities. At that point, you pause and you think about the choice that you have. And so many people made the choice of, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make a change. Some people did it because they had children, and they said, I want to do whatever I can to be there for my children. Whatever it is, you realize that you have a choice here. Now you still have the thorn in your side. You're not going to be healed, but you can make a difference in your life by choosing that you want to go forward, you want to be positive, because being positive has those positive emotional attractors. And what's key is we're so well made that if we start thinking about or doing something that's positive, it brings that joy hormone, and that's what we're trying to do, is to boost our mood to help us live well with lupus.
All right. So we do have some time left for some Q&A. If anyone has any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. Shirley, can you tell us how we can find your book?
Well, you can find it on Amazon. Yes, it's on Amazon, and so I think it's a good book. I think since some of us are that we need a plan. When you're on fire, you had to stop, drop, and roll. You knew what to do. And I was looking, well, what do we do? How do we deal with the situation? And in my book, I look at the stages and develop a model so that we can end up resilient. So yeah, it's available on Amazon.
All right. I'm putting the title in the comment area so everyone can see that. So far, no questions have come up.
Okay.
Anything else you want to share about resilience or your book?
Well, I just wanted my book. I think when I was doing the research, and my question was, how is it possible when people are having extreme change? There's how do some people make it and others don't? And my research showed that there was how people view change. Because some people don't like change, but change acceptance is key, because if you realize that life is going to be full of change, then then you can kind of expect it or be prepared to do whatever that's needed. My research also pointed to support. So there were 5 key drivers, and these were all from my lupus community, that we put together all of those different things. And then I gave it to a statistician. So the PhD was qualitative and quantitative, and he came back with the statistics on what was significant in dealing with lupus, and that would be your view of change, how you were able to transition, support. And so it's important for us to teach those things. I just felt that if we could come up with a process, would it be teachable? Which are some of the things you guys are doing there. You're teaching people you're educating them. If we can teach people how to frame unintended change, those who are vulnerable, then we can help them to manage the unintended change in their lives.
All right. A couple questions came in. First one is from Melissa Newton. She said, do you have any tools in your book for managing resilience?
Well, I do. I have what I would call my my spiritual fitness wheel, and that is looking at all those things that bring me joy. And so I developed this the things that bring me joy, and I use mine, and then I use a blank one, so that if you are feeling anxious, even if you're feeling anxious because you get ready to go into a meeting, you can have a digital digital toolbox, or you can have a physical toolbox, but you want to be able to customize what is needed to get you out of whatever funk that you're starting to go into. And so my spiritual fitness, and when I'm talking about spiritual, I'm talking about those things that fuel your spirit.
All right. Mari Gonzalez said, do you also feel guilty for your caretakers like I get sometimes?
I think that would be yes. Well, I try not to feel guilty. I try to make sure. I think that's a two-edged sword, because I think that I'm not purposely bringing anything to my caretaker. And I think that's something that you do have to be careful about, because if I start being um, guilty, then I might not tell him. And I did tell him that one time that I didn't want to tell him. And then he said, "Well, if you don't tell me, um, and something happens to you because you felt guilty, then you'll be sick." So I think that's a two-edged sword. I have to realize that I am not the cause. And I think that's an interesting question, because when I received a kidney transplant, I received the kidney from someone who died. And they didn't want to meet the family. But I did go through a period of sadness, because I didn't ask for this person to die, And so for a while I had to adjust. I really would not, but I had to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't anything that I did, that the family wanted to um, use her parts to further the lives of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we do have to be careful when we start looking at guilt, and where that's coming from, so that we can not hold on to the guilt. We can see how we can reverse that.
All right. Brian Brummel, I think you know him. He had a question. What is the first thing you should do when faced with a negative change?
Well, that is an interesting question. Um, in Since we were talking about positive, and we're always trying to move things out of the negative and see how we can reframe it, because the negative, when you're dealing with negative things, your body kind of um, your immune system is depressed. And so you start to kind of become depressed. And so in my book, if you're looking at there's an intentional change theory, and it speaks to the importance of the negative emotional attractors and the positive emotional attractors. You really want to, if you feel like you're in a negative situation, then you realize the consequences. Your health you're more susceptible to illness if you're going to stay with the negative. So then you look upon whatever you can do to bring about the positive emotional attractors. I mean, it was funny. One time I was really stuck, and I was in a negative place, and I came down, and I asked my husband to dance with me, and he thought I was nuts, because I don't think I had danced since I had gotten my knee replacement, and I had kind of forgot how to cha-cha. And I was still counting and everything, but I remembered, my research says that if you do something positive, then that's going to release the joy, the mood regulator hormones. And so I I figured out something. I just figured, well, if you could just start me off. And so that showed me that after I had done that, I was a little tired because my knees were like saying, we haven't done this in a long time. But if you allow the positive emotions to connect with those hormones that we have there, then it kind of turns the tide.
All right. And then Mari Gonzalez asks, what's in your tool case for flare-up days?
Well, Mari, those are the times when I go to the bed and I start promising the Lord that I'll be good. That's because I realize that I'm in a place that I'm a flare up. That means I'm going to have to go to bed. I'm going to probably need more medicine, but I'm going to have to really give myself some extra self care. So that's when I send myself to my room and be good for about 4 days and and then there it is.
All right. Well, I think we're good on time. So no more questions have come in. So I think we can wrap it up here. If you have anything else, Shirley, to suggest. Mari did say, thank you, hon.
You're welcome, Mari. I love you. Yeah, I'm thinking this is a great opportunity that this is your 50th year that you're celebrating, and this is Lupus Awareness Month. I think focus on resilience is so key, especially it just impacts everything that we can do. And as I was saying, the lupus helped me to deal with the with the pandemic because it just showed that when one way is not working, another way is possible, that we have choices. And that's been really interesting because, I had to go to drive through birthday parties for my granddaughter. I did curbside. I'm still loving that curbside thing. So, and so, but it is an ongoing thing, that's life. And I used to think that first year that I did not have a flare or I did not have to go to the hospital, I was almost afraid to fall in the tub because it wasn't lupus, but it was a milestone for me. I mean, I had gone to the hospital so many times, or I call the doctor, I'd say I'm good. And they said, no, you don't, you have pleurisy. I mean, so I've had pleurisy, I've had so many things. But when you look at the plan that you have and you're aware of your body and you listen and you have your tools, then you start using all of them. I mean, I have a counselor, I that I call on. If I'm overwhelmed, I get a massage. And so you have to individualize it for yourself. But the key thing is to remember that there is a choice and you can do it.
Well, great. A few more comments. And Mari said, we love you more. Kay Mim says, thanks, Shirley. Love your book. Very helpful for me. Melissa Newton says, thank you both for good conversation. And Susan Steinbeck says, we will be buying the book. She'll be buying the book for her daughter.
Oh, great, great, great. Because it is, as we look through the adult development theory, we all have different things that we're going through. And I know when my daughter was in that preteen stage, I was like, oh gosh. And I was trying to give her the things that would work for me. And so I was talking to this psychology professor and I said, well, I know this person whose whose daughter is they're having challenges. And he said, well, was their relationship close? And I said, well, I think it was. And he said, well, when she's trying to find her identity, what is her is not you. And I said, oh, well, I'll tell her. And then I left and I wanted to kick the wall because I had a very close relationship with my daughter, but she was doing just what she needed to do at her stage, which is to find her own identity. And that's what we have to realize with each and every person. We are experiencing a different us at each decade. You know, in your 70s, you're looking at this, in your 50s. And so we have to be patient with each other.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I think a lot of people, including myself, learned something from this. So thank you so much. We do appreciate everyone being on tonight. Tomorrow is World Lupus Day. So please wear your purple, take some selfies, send them over to
Got my
LSI.
purple on.
Yes, make sure, take some selfies, send it over to lisa@lupusil.org. We will definitely share any photos or anything that you guys have going on tomorrow. And then just please remember that this month we do have 2 more Facebook Live events. May 23rd, it's a Q&A with the Rush Lupus Clinic. So it's Dr. Cherney, Dr. Jolly, and Dr. Nika will be answering your questions. So you can submit questions to me now to send over to the doctors, and they will do a Facebook Live to answer them. And then on May 30th, we'll be having conversation with our lupus navigator, Mari Gonzalez, and she'll be talking about all the resources that LSI has for all those living with lupus and their caretakers and what we do at LSI. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you again, Shirley. It was a great conversation, and we really appreciate you. So we hope everyone has a great night and happy Lupus Awareness Month, and we will be seeing you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.